Hello, welcome back. Thank you for watching this. This is the third installment of the Idea TestLab. This is the video preparing you for the third night. This will be the third night that we do the Postit Exercise. So the Postit Exercise is an opportunity for you to kind of do some data processing from the notes that you have. It's important that you, one, have notes, and two, that they're legible or that they're accessible so that you can pull information from them and start putting them into something. So what I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to prepare you, give you a little another PowerPoint presentation to start talking about some material that we should cover, so that when you get there on Wednesday night or Tuesday night, that things will be kind of up to snuff. So let me start with that. All righty. So welcome back. So another wonderful quote: "Doing business is like dating." This is really important. A lot of things that you're going to do in your business career, or if you decide to go forward with your company, whatever, people want to move quickly, and you hear a lot of pressure to move fast, right? But a lot of it is based on human relationships. At the end of the day, business is by humans interacting with other humans, whether indirectly or directly. And so it's important to do that intelligently. So you can move quickly, but don't be brash and don't move don't move without thinking about it first, right? That goes for partners, people you bring into your life to work with you in the company, partnerships that you might have with other companies, organizations, or even with your customers, right? So being too quick with them or being too brash may lead you to misunderstanding them or pissing them off, right? So things to think about. So why are we doing what we're doing? I think it's important to kind of recap what we are covering up until this point, or why we do it. So the whole point of the Idea Test Lab is really to get you exposed to the skills and then the tools that you would need to go test an idea to see if there's anybody interested, and if someone is, why they're interested and what to do with that, right? A lot of that comes from defining your company and its value. So how do you do that? Well, we define a lot of things in this program, some of them being assumptions, right? So the assumptions that you're making about yourself, the company, your product, service, your customers, et cetera. The job to be done, right? Writing a problem statement. So what is the issue and what's the root cause of it? The value proposition, which we're going to talk about later, but the value is, what are the values that you're bringing to your customers? What is it that they get out of it? What is the feeling or emotion or need that is being addressed by this? And then also by your customers, defining them and stepping away from the idea of a definition being, a demographic and some descriptors. It's oftentimes it's habits, behaviors, and beliefs. People are more than skin deep, right? If you can define it, then you can know it. If you can't, then you don't know it, right? And you're putting yourself at risk. So by knowing something, you are de-risking your business. Customer segmentation. So who exactly is my customer? So we've been talking about this a lot, trying to ask, who is your customer, right? Who's the person paying you? Who's in exchange for money, right? Money, users, different than customers. Those are two different things. Who is the person who's giving you money for a service or product? And we start talking about segmentation. So the great example that we like to give is the stilettos, right? We've talked about this a number of times, but the idea that everyone with 2 feet could potentially be a customer for stilettos. But the reality is it's a much smaller segment of all humans with 2 legs that would buy stilettos and want to wear them, and for a variety of different reasons. And within the people who wear stilettos, they wear them for different reasons, right? Some people wear them because they feel attractive in them. Other people feel pressure to wear them. Other people wear them because they're required to by work, whatever. There are a lot of reasons that people might wear something like that, or stilettos, or let's say with a car, right? I think a car is a great example. A Toyota makes multiple different versions of vehicles, right? There's the Prius. I have one of those, right? And the person who drives a Prius is very different from the person who drives a Toyota truck, who's also very different from the person who drives a Toyota van, right? The reason those things are different, or they made different products, is to serve different segments, different market segments. So by understanding that, it's helpful. So with this quote here, dividing a broad target market into subsets of customers who have common needs, and then designing and implementing strategies to target their needs and desires, right? The Toyota truck satisfies a very different set of needs and desires that has been developed for a market, a group of people within a market, than the Sienna or whatever, their van car, right? And then the Prius is different, right? So again, this is starting to see segmentation. It doesn't mean they can't be your customers. It's really about when you start tackling them as your customers and how you start tackling them, or how you start approaching them. So what is the number one reason startups fail? The number one reason, based on a CB Insights review, is that people make companies make stuff that people don't care about. So there's a lack of what we call product market fit. And if you remember that very first video, we talk about those two segments, right? There's discovery and execution, or searching and execution. And a lot of people just jump right to execution. They don't do that searching phase. And because they don't do the searching phase, they don't really match well with their customer, and they miss what we call product market fit. And so this is a great demonstration here of where people, the warm colors are typically where people tend to spend a lot of their time. So people get really excited about the UX, right? Oh, it's going to look like this. It's going to have this kind of experience. It's amazing. The feature set. Oh, it's going to have all these whiz bobs and bangles and all that kind of stuff. And then maybe some people even get to the value proposition, but most don't. Most people just stay up in those top two tiers. But the real thing is that when you have a good product, right, it has to serve a target customer and needs associated. And you need those things to kind of align. So it's a match between product and market segment that results in high growth or high demand, right? So that is product market fit. And it is not an assumption, right? I'm not assuming these things. These things you found out. You've gone and done some customer discovery, and you figure out who your customers are and their needs. Dug into those things, and you're understanding how their needs can be met potentially with your solution or modifying your solution to solve their needs. The customer is known, right? So you know this customer. This isn't, again, an assumption based on who you think it could be, but it's an actually understanding of who this group of people is. Value is understood, right? So you're understanding, again, understanding what their needs are and understanding why they have those needs, what the main causes are, and how you're addressing those root causes by providing them a product or service. And finally, yes, your company is in execution mode. So just like I mentioned a moment ago, there's those two stages. There's the searching and execution. We are going to be focusing predominantly in the searching phase, right? That is the Idea TestLab. Going out there, doing customer discovery, pivoting, iterating, etc., until you find out that you have product market fit. Then execution is another program, right? Execution is scaling, growing, doing some customer discovery, but developing things with them in some ways, moving along those lines. Common mistake that people make is defining two product segments. Again, stilettos, right? Everyone with two legs or 2 feet could be a purchaser of stilettos. And that's not real, right? So whatever you think your market might be, if again, when people start this, it's okay to start with a big market. It's okay to make an assumption about it, but it is not okay to go leave the assumption as is, or to not pursue it and try to find out the truth. So when we talk about segmentation, what are some clues for that, right? So some of you might say, well, I'm stuck with this market. I think I have a really narrowly defined market. How do I make it a little bit more defined? Or is this too big, right? Or what are some things, some earmarks? Some earmarks are these, right? So depth of passion, right? So the people within a market may be more passionate than others. And by passion, I mean need the thing solved more than someone else, right? So they have a bigger need or a more painful need. So I know for Garrett, your product and service, right? For you, working with small businesses, some of them might not be aware of this problem. And if they are, they might not care enough to do about it. But some people might have been influenced in the past. They may have been hurt by this potential problem, right? And so for you, it's worth going and understanding who is the person who is most deeply affected by this, maybe in the past, or is keenly aware of the need, but they don't have the skill set, and that's what they might hire you for. That might be something to think about. They're hang out in different places. This could be virtual or physical, right? The idea that not everyone hangs out in the same spaces. That could be forums, that could be physical places and libraries, but the difference is important to understand. Okay, expecting different solutions. This one I find particularly interesting because it depends on who your customer is, right? So let's pretend you make a device, right? A piece of equipment or machinery that does something. It prints money. Let's go for that. You might find that an industrial consumer or customer of yours doesn't care what it looks like, so long as it does the thing, right? Because for them, the aesthetics of the device itself doesn't matter. It's behind closed walls, so long as it works and it's easy to repair, right? But a different customer who wants to present this thing, it's part of their forward-facing products, they might care more about the aesthetics and maybe less about its ability to be fixed or something like that. But the machine might do the same thing, but you might have a customer that wants it to look one way and another one who doesn't care. Right? They're expecting different solutions. These are different ways to solve different problems. Right? One person cares only about the product, and other people care about the aesthetic and the product. So something to think about. Expecting a different sales method. I think agriculture is a great example of this. So most of the world at this point is aware of online shopping, e-commerce. That's a pretty normal thing nowadays. So many people, especially in the B2C world, sell things directly to customers, right? And it's often done through a virtual kind of screen or virtual process. However, many B2B sales are done in more of a traditional sales method, right? You have a salesperson, you develop a relationship, a rapport is built, and that person then has a relationship with you and sells you something over time. Agriculture is a great example. Although there are a lot of small-time farmers, most people don't buy stuff online. What they tend to do is they tend to buy things from a person they know and respect and have trust in. And that's typically what happens. They'll meet a person, they'll initiate a relationship, they'll talk for several months before something may ever be purchased. But once that purchase is made, it's more of a relationship. So again, this is a different sales method to think about. If there isn't a clear physical or digital location where you can find your customer segment, you're probably going too broad. And by this being like, where do all of the car owners hang out? Like that's not realistic, right? All car owners hang out in different places versus if, again, going back to Priuses, right? There's a Prius owner forum, or there's a Toyota owner forum, or there's a, there's a Bugatti forum somewhere. Those people hang out probably in Monaco, right? Those people hang out in different places. So it's worth dialing it in. Customer slicing, the mom test, right? So this is from the mom test. So within this group, who has the most of the need, right? Who's the biggest need? Who within this group is going to buy it? Is it everyone or just someone, right? I think it's important to note that for almost everybody, it is not going to be everybody within a group. It's going to be a small subset, right? We talk about TAM, SAM, SOM. Those are total addressable market, the segments that you think you can get. You are likely only going to be able to address a smaller portion, but define those people. Who is this portion? Why are they willing to do this? Who is a subset that want it, and what problem are they solving, right? Asking yourself these questions. Does everyone in the group have the motivation or only some? Again, that goes kind of the second question. What additional motivations are there? Right? Are there other motives that are driving people to do this purchase or to solve this need? Is it just, I need this need solved, or it makes me feel good that I've solved it in addition to solving the problem? Are there multiple components to it? And then which other types of people have these motivations, right? So for you, if you say, I have this one community, but they're really small, is there a lateral move? Is there a group that's similar enough in characteristics, but there might be more people, or that have different needs that you might be able to address instead? This is one of my favorite things. So the market for square hats. So typically when people start describing their customers, or at least at the gate, they'll start saying things like they're college students who are 18 to 22 who live in college towns, right? That's not really helpful. That's more demographics, right? Demographics are fine to start with, but the reality is people are more than skin deep, right? They're more than just their age and what their occupation or their studying position is and where they live, right? People make decisions based on their internal drivers. And those internal drivers tend to be habits, behaviors, and beliefs. Like, so what are the emotional parts of a human, right? And this is when it's important to really discover who your customer is. You're trying to actually know them, not just on a piece of paper, but you're trying to understand who these people are and really connect with them on an emotional level. The better you can do that, the better you can serve them and create for them something that they care about. So a company that did this pretty well, it is a cheap example, but I think it's worth looking into because I think they did a pretty good job. So Amazon, right? Amazon now is the everything store is what they are now, but I think that was one of their goals initially. But what they started with was books. Why did they start with books? They started with books because they knew a market that they could address, and they did something that many other stores couldn't provide, right? Because it was all online, they couldn't provide a huge selection, right? You only have so much square footage versus Amazon was able to provide a massive square footage devoted just to book storage because other places have to have, a storefront that has these aesthetics and it has to be in these places. Amazon could have a warehouse far away. So who is their customer, right? So they first knew there was a niche market to begin with. They also knew that these people would be reading books, right? So they're reading books. They're looking for physical copies. Great. They're busy or don't want to go to the store, right? So these are the type of people who are not interested in going and perusing. They likely know what they want already. They've heard of it, but they just want the book. They don't want to have to go and find out it's not there. They want to be able to purchase at any time. They want to be able to buy outside of the 9 to 5, right? They may have been working, they may have been doing a lot of things, but purchasing outside that traditional time frame of an open bookstore was something that they wanted to kind of avoid, or they wanted to kind of work towards. Don't see the need or experts to make decisions, right? So for this one, meaning they didn't need to see inside the book. Other people love to look and pore over a book before they make a decision. For them, it's a commitment, right? They're committing to this book. Other people see the title, they've heard enough about it, they're just going to buy the book, and that's a different person. Or they know what they want, they're very specific about what they're looking for. They just want the book that they might not have been able to get at any other place. A big thing is Amazon started off very early on in the internet age. So this is when people started purchasing online, and that wasn't a really well-trusted way of commerce. There weren't those little green locks in the left-hand corner of your URLs. There wasn't a really, people were nervous about it. People were nervous about putting their credit cards online. So Amazon needed a customer who's willing to pay online. And then finally, they wanted a bigger selection of unique books, right? So again, outside of like Barnes & Noble or Borders, Amazon was able to provide very, very wide selection, which is what people are looking for. So one thing to talk about is customer pull versus customer push. So when we're doing customer discovery, people tend to say, oh, they would love this, or this would be awesome, without actually backing it up with any data that they have about their customers. And so it's important to do customer pull instead of customer push. Customer pull is where you pull things from your customer, pull the features, the things that they desire. That's all from understanding their problems and what they're needing. Customer push, or pushing the product, it comes from a place where I think they would want this, but I don't know that they want this. I haven't confirmed it. So what this looks like is not doing anything until your customer focuses on So what this looks like is basically not doing anything until your customer expresses a demand for it, to avoid overbuilding. Why we talk about this in this particular context is that you don't have a lot of resources. Startups don't have a lot of resources, time, energy, money, people, those kinds of things. And because of that, it's really important for you to manage your resources. So overbuilding is pretty dangerous. So again, unless a customer directly requests it, and second part to that is why they want it, not just that they want a feature, but why they want the feature, and that there's enough people who agree, then building it, but not trying to just build out the gate. This leads to scope creep too, where people say, oh, wouldn't it be awesome if, it would be amazing if, this would be so cool and amazing, we could just do it. It would be quick, don't worry about it, right? Every time you do that, you're taking yourself away from your main goal and you're distracting yourself from your customers. Demand demonstration, right? We don't build product part or feature because we think it is wanted, it has been ordered. So it's important to articulate that you're waiting, or you're trying to understand what people need, and you're waiting for them to tell you that's what they need before you build it. Value has been discovered, right? This is all part of why you continue to do customer discovery after you find product market fit. This helps you build out new features, understand the problem people are having, and you're really refining your product. Your product is never going to be done. And that's hard for some people to imagine or understand, but people's needs change. The hedonic treadmill will come into play. So for you, it's this constant preparation and understanding of your customers so that you can constantly be refining your product or segmenting it. Hey, we have this product that helps this one group. We found that there's another group that could benefit as well. It just needs to be tweaked a little bit. That's, again, a little bit later. That's more execution, but this is why it's an important thing to understand when you're first starting. No overproduction. We build it just in time, no inventory, right? The idea of you build it as soon as people ask for it, and enough people ask for it, and you understand why they're asking for it, rather than, I'm going to do this ahead of time. I think people are going to want this, because God forbid that they don't want it, right? You've wasted a huge amount of time and energy, and you may have actually potentially hurt your relationships with customers, depending on the thing you've built. Maybe it pissed them off. Only add features that add value, right? Or only build the ones that add value. Customer segmentation helps you better align your value propositions, messaging, channels, and offering, right? Start small, niche, and then grow. We want you to take over the world. World domination sounds awesome. We're big proponents of it, but you have to start somewhere, because you do not have the cash, money, resources, etc., that other companies might. And so you need to be more intelligent about what you do with that time, energy, and money that you do put in. So that's why you start small, because you can help a small group really, really well, It means you can copy paste that model if it works out. And you can always have that relationship. And those people can help you with messaging, channels, offering. And also, if you do it well enough, they might become a person who helps spread the word. But what if there's more than one potential customer target? How do I pick one? That's a great question. Many of you have products that could help multiple markets. So it's important to figure out which one's the right one to start with. So part of that is based on two kind of premises. So it's based on these two main things, based on a need or based on access. So one, they have the problem and they have the problem, right? Two, they're aware that they have the problem. Three, they're actively looking for a solution. 4 or 3A, whatever, they've actually started putting together things to solve that problem on their own. So they've actually started digging and trying to solve it. Maybe it doesn't work that well. And they can have or acquire the funds to pay, right? That's that hurdles thing. There's nothing stopping them fiscally, legally, whatever. And then finally, you have access to these people, right? So that's the ideal customer. But based on just access alone, you have access to the group of potential customer. There's a company called Himogo that went through the launch box, and they were working with blood sampling. So they're being able to take blood drops from your hand, use a camera from your phone to count blood cells, red blood cells. And this is mainly for cancer patients. So they could send them to their doctor to make sure they're giving enough chemo. Well, what they realized is that their hurdle was they were blocked on access to cancer patients because the FDA wouldn't just let them roll in and use the product, right? Which makes sense. So that's millions of dollars and years and years and years of testing away. So what they did was, instead of quitting, they just shifted based on access. So they went to veterinarians. Veterinarians do not require FDA clearance to apply a technology or product. So they started working with rare birds with blood diseases. So people had the money, they had all these things, they were aware of the problem, right? All of this stuff. They come check these boxes, not all of them, but most of them. And they were able to make that lateral move. So they were able to continue generating revenue, working with people, working out some of the bugs with the bird people first. And now they're pursuing an FDA clearance or FDA, approval for their technology. So that's a way to think about it. It's important to remember that customers are people, right? At the end of the day, business is about selling products or services from people to people. And when you start disconnecting yourself from people, your customers, or treating your customers like they aren't people, we start to run into issues. So how do you define a customer? Well, a customer is defined by more than just demographics, right? It's about habits, behaviors, beliefs, and problems. So habits are the things people do on a regular basis, repeatedly. Behaviors are one-off decisions that people make. And beliefs are the things that support habits and behaviors, right? If I believe in a healthy life, right, I'm likely going to have healthy habits, that I'm everyday exercise, every day I have breakfast at this time. And it may influence my behaviors, right? So I might be a better driver, or I might opt to try out new things that might be more healthy for me, right? Those are behaviors. And then problems, right? So what are the problems that I have? I'm defined by the problems that I have. I deal with whatever. I struggle with these kinds of things. That is what defines a person. And those all together are really the way that you should start looking at your customers, not just by demographics, groups, or attributes, right? It's easy to put people in demographic groups, right? It's all women, right? All my customers are women, or all my customers are men, or all my customers are young men or old men, right? That's not really helpful, because those are, one, huge groups. But then two, those groups are not monoliths, right, in any capacity. So treating them like monoliths isn't really helpful for you, because it's going to be hard for you to navigate who's your customer, but then also your customer doesn't feel like they're being spoken to, right? You're just talking to all men over 60, right? That's an example. Groups, college students. We hear this all the time. People saying, well, I'm selling to college students. Again, college students are not a monolith. They're people who take their education seriously, people who don't, people who are athletes, people who are mainly researchers. There's graduate, undergraduate students. Like, all of those people could be lumped together as college students. But when you start doing segmentation, you'll find out that there's differences between them. And again, their habits, behaviors, and beliefs, and their problems are all different. And finally, attributes. It is so easy, because this is what we see on surface level, to start writing up people and writing off people based on attributes about them, right? They wear pink hats, they have brown eyes or blue eyes, or they have, different types of hair or whatever. Like, that is not super, super helpful, right? It's easy to do that. In some places it might make sense, but for the vast majority of it, it's habits, behaviors, and beliefs and problems that support those things. So have a bit of a wider aperture when you think about who your customer is. Again, it doesn't mean that they don't have demographics. It doesn't mean that you can't say, I predominantly work with college students, or the people I work with technically often have blue colored eyes, right? That's fine. But again, why, those are maybe surface level, but the important stuff is beneath. Finding patterns. So this is the big thing about tonight. So the big exercise tonight is the Postit exercise. So I call it the poor person's data analytics, but it's a way for you to process your notes and find some data. So the Postit exercise starts kind of like this. So you should have reviewed each of your interviews and highlighted the nuggets, right? So you should go through all of your notes. Again, you should have taken notes to begin with. And two, this is why we say you should take good notes so you can go back and kind of find some stuff. So pull out nuggets. And what we call nuggets are any time that someone says they're thinking, feeling, seeing, doing, or saying, or they mention a pain or a gain, right? Or something that they're looking to solve. Those are things I would pull out and do them individually. You may find that one person has a lot of notes and some people don't have very many at all. That's okay, but it's important to do that. Create one post per nugget. So any one of those things, create one single Post-it that you have. And this can all be done on Miro. Using the voice of the customer, note the customer interview number and the corner of each post, put their name. I like putting their name if they have an age associated, whatever, or if you have a time or something that you can segment them differently. So if you have one person named Daniel, you're not confusing Daniel with another Daniel that you may have talked with, or that you're not having Daniel, but then nothing else, and you can't remember who's who. The reason we do that is because some people might give you more sticky notes, and we don't want them to outweigh the votes and voices of other people. Group into jobs to be done, pains and gains, right? So that's a place to start. So are you finding trends amongst these sticky notes, right? Are you hearing that this is an issue? This is not an issue. This is their thoughts, behaviors, beliefs, patterns, whatever. Things to kind of stick together, because you might find an interesting trend there. All of my customers go to Taco Bell on Thursday nights. That's really weird, right? I just made that up, but something to think about. Identify patterns within each. What's nice about this, and the reason we use sticky notes, whether on Miro or in physical copy, is that you can move them around, right? In an Excel sheet, it's difficult, or it's not as easy to move stuff around. Versus this, you can move things around in more of a fluid manner, and you can find new patterns. Oh, interesting. Somebody said this, and you can put it over a different space and say, actually, that's more people have said this, and you found a new piece of information or a new trend that you may not have noticed before. Rank in terms of importance. So you'll start to find all of these different trends or different patterns that are start to emerge. Which ones are more important? And are you answering some of your assumptions? So by going through these things, are you validating or invalidating some of the assumptions that you have? And then finally, review your job to be done statement or your problem statement. What is the problem that the people have, and are you actually solving it for them? Does it sync up? Is there dissonance between the two? Does it not feel right? Or are people asking for something different than what you think you're offering? If so, how different? Or if not, great. Value propositions. This is the next step. So one thing to think about, we'll talk about this tonight, and what you should do for the next meeting, for the fourth meeting, is writing up your value proposition. So your value proposition is a combination of all the stuff that we've talked about before. It's based on your assumptions. It's based on your customer interviews. It's also based on the problem statement that you have, right? So we're bringing it all together into one thing. Your value proposition helps connect your customer with you, right? And what you're providing them. So a value proposition is a promise of the value to be delivered. That's a simplification of what it is, but it's really important to understand this. So it's tied to your job to be done, and it should resonate with your customer. When your customer hears this, when they hear the value proposition in the words that they use and solving a problem that they care about, it should resonate with them. They should be like, oh yeah, that's me. That solves a problem for me. How do you create value for your customers? This is not new, right? This is from a previous video, but another way to think about it. So newness, performance, right? These are all the things. This is related to your job to be done statement or your problem statement. What do people need? Is it status? Is it a cheaper cost? Is it reduced risk? Is it accessibility? Whatever these things might be, what thing is applied to your business and your customer? What do your customers need? Where do companies use value propositions? Pretty much everywhere, right? It's important to note that it's not the same thing as a tagline or whatever, but it is written everywhere. And it's a promise that they make, right? It's a promise in their writing, at their social media posts. It's on their website. Maybe it's on the product itself. These are things, or service. These are things that the company is promising you as the customer that they're going to deliver on. And some of them are not always direct, right? If you buy our product, you will be cool. But sometimes it's not super direct, but other times it is, right? So think about sports cars, a great example. I don't know if there's any sports car ad that says, hey, if you buy this car, you're going to be awesome, you're going to be more attractive to the opposite sex, and you're going to find yourself feeling wealthy, right? They might not say that directly, but they try to portray that in whatever advertising that they do. Something to think about. This is hard. Writing a clear, concise value proposition is not easy. It's because you're distilling all of this stuff, all the research and work that you've done up until this point. You're trying to distill it into a phrase or a paragraph, and it feels like you're missing pieces out, and it's hard. It's like writing a song, right? So it's okay. It's going to take time, but it's worth doing. And here's another way to think about it. The key to creating a value proposition is clearly defining the job your customer is trying to do. Once you've clearly defined the problem, you can begin to address the value your customer wants, right? What is the value your customer wants and that you're going to provide to them? Value props are a starting point for your elevator pitch. And a value prop is not marketing speak. It's funny to watch some of these companies try to like businessize the way that they communicate what their value proposition is because it makes them feel more credible or whatever, right? And depending on your customer segment, that may or may not be true. But forcing it when it doesn't need to be there is not helpful. So revenue-focused marketing automation and sales effectiveness solutions unleash collaboration throughout the revenue cycle, right? This doesn't mean anything. These are kind of just like buzzwords that people have selected from a book or from online or a magazine, whatever, and they're throwing in as many things as they can because they feel like it makes sense. We don't know what this product does or this service. I don't even know if it's a service or a product. So that's not well articulated. There's so many questions we have here, and this doesn't resonate with very much anybody, right? Revenue-focused marketing automation and sales effectiveness. What the hell does that mean? So don't get caught up in this, right? It's easy to fall into this thing of, well, we can just add this other word because it's cooler. It sounds more official, right? But remembering, official should be based on what your customers think is official. It should be based on their perspective, their beliefs. You should be trying to align with them, not with whatever else the market is trying to do. It's not obscure. Give us 5 minutes and we'll supercharge your website. First off, what the heck does supercharge mean? Does it mean it'll move faster? Is it going to load faster? Will I get more traffic? Will I get more sales from the website? Will it just be brighter? I don't know, right? It's vague and kind of obscure. And also, it seems like an overpromise. It's not a tagline, right? Just do it. I mean, if I didn't know Nike was already associated with this, I don't know what that means. It's not an overpromise, right? Rain Group provides sales training that will turn anyone into a quality salesperson. We know that not anyone can be a quality salesperson, right? And so making that promise doesn't make a lot of sense. And so that can be misleading or honestly just turn people away sometimes. It's not a list of features. Our software allows you to create profiles with photos and images, listen, chat, SMS, email, and messaging, right? All of these things. It's not a list of features. Our software allows you to create profiles with photos and images, list interests, store contact information for friends, and private message others by combining chat, SMS, email, and messaging. Very few, if anybody, has ever requested something like this. I can't think of a customer who would say, you know what I really want? I want to be able to create profiles with photos and images, list interests, store contact information for friends, and private message others by combining chat, SMS, email, and messaging, right? That's not it. What they're saying is I want to connect with my friends, or I really want to find out where I can store all this information, but not worry about losing it. It's articulated differently, and a lot of people don't care how you get it done. They just care that it's done, right? Most people don't care how the sausage is made on your back end. They just want to make sure they have a good, nice finished product that they can use. It solves a problem. Favorite part, avoid bullshit bingo marketing words. It is, again, so easy for people to fall into this. So words like efficient, unique, effective, better, productivity, innovative, robust, optimized, et cetera, et cetera. It's so easy to fall into these because you hear them somewhere else and they sound good, right? But again, what the heck does this mean? How does that apply to your product? And then avoid stating the obvious. User-friendly. Hopefully it is, right? The idea is you don't live in a world anymore where your product cannot be user-friendly. It has to be user-friendly or easy to use. Helps you succeed. I would hope so. I would hope that it doesn't help me fail, right? Designed for just for you, right? Is it customized? If you're selling customized product, I hope so. We care about our customers. You should care about your customers. Again, businesses are basically people helping people directly or indirectly. That's what it should be. And so when you're working with people, you should be caring about solving their problems, because the more you care about solving their problems and you actually do it, the more likely they're going to potentially stay as your customer and work with you, right? And help you develop something meaningful. What are the components of a value proposition? So this forms the foundation of a good pitch, right? So again, the elevator pitch. What's your 1 minute to 30 seconds that synopsis? What are the components of value proposition? Right? These are the forms of the foundation of a good pitch. Again, this is like the 30 seconds to a minute. That's a synopsis of your company. It's these 4 components. Pains. What are the things that your customers struggle with, right? Gains. What do they get from using your product? What are they looking to have solved at the end, right? They're not looking to use your product. They're looking for that 1/4 inch hole. So think about that. What is it that you actually do, and why? Why are you better? So it's important to kind of do this thing here. So your customer has, right, the pain, the need, the job. The customer gets. What is the value that is created? What is ideally quantifiable, right, about that? What do you do? Product, service, fixes the pain. What's your MVP? And then why buy from you? What is different about you? And this is important to think about the differences between what's you and what's them. Pains and gains are all about your customer, and then the what and why are about you, right? You and your company. Value propositions may be organized differently depending on your audience, right? So you might shuffle these around, but it basically has these 4 components. So an example would be this. So can you identify the pain, problem, gain, the what and the why? The pain, gain, what, why? Can you define these in here? So you can pause here if you want to kind of look through, but we'll kind of just go through it now. So this is the pain, gain, what, why. So for pet owners who never want to lose track of their much loved pet, right? That's the pain, is lose track of their much loved pet, right? And also defines who that person is. Then the what, again, they're not in that order necessarily, but it does cover all 4 parts. The what is the solution. A friendship is a device the size of a grain of sand placed under the skin, which transmits a unique identification number. Cool. You understand what the product is. The gain that enables vets and animal shelters to return lost pets to their owners. Returning lost pets. That is what they get to their owners. And then finally, why? Unlike traditional collar tags, right? So they're referencing their competition. It's a safe, permanent, and reliable identification for your pet. That's why it's different. Safe, permanent, reliable. So this is hard. Again, we've talked very much at the beginning here. This is not an easy thing to do, so it's worth doing well and taking the time to do it. So other examples, Dell delivers a low-cost customized computer direct to your door. A better way to do it would be Dell takes the hassle and costs out of buying the exact computer you want by delivering a customized computer direct to your door within 48 hours at below 10% retail or 10% below retail prices. Pick the exact features you want using our step-by-step online ordering system to speak directly to our trained hardware and software experts. Right? Awesome. So that would be a wonderful one. This is fine. This is okay. This is a good place to start, but there's more things you can add to it. The pain, the gain, the what and why. Even more examples. You can look at these in your own time. If you can pause if you want. So building the customer story. This is the last major section we're going to cover. So we've talked about your value proposition, right? So understanding the customer and the value you give to them. Now it's kind of building a story for your customer. This is a helpful tool that you can look into. So tools to help you better understand your customer segment. So one was in-person interviews, right? That's going and talking with people. Postit Exercise to identify patterns, right? We're doing that on Tuesday. Empathy maps is something we'll mention later, and then personas and archetypes. So we'll talk in all these things. So empathy maps. Empathy maps basically is a tool that helps you go beyond the customer's demographic characteristics and develop a better understanding of the environment, behaviors, concerns, and aspirations, right? Habits, behaviors, beliefs about these people. So this is in the resource site for you to use. So you might take this. So it's broken down in these 4 major components: think and feel, see, hear, say, do, pain, and gain. It kind of looks like the BMC, the business model canvas, but it's for your customer. What is going on with them? What's their context when they're dealing with this problem? This is another way to look at it. So same deal, same demonstration, but looks a little bit different. Remember, it's important to use the language of your customer. So I believe, I need, I think, I wonder, I don't like, I like, all of those kinds of things, putting that in there. So here's just a way that it was kind of filled out. Here's a filled out version. This is job customer statement, what they're trying to get done, what are they observing, seeing, hearing, etc., the gains that they're looking for. Magic wand questions, great for that. Personas. This is the final thing. So personas are a tool. They are an amalgamation of all of the interviews that you've done, trying to distill all of these people into one person that you can refer back to. So personas and archetypes. So it's a fictional character constructed to represent the needs of a whole range of real users. Personas help to ensure that you keep the users in mind during the design process, right? Why we do this is because it's hard to think about a lot of different people. You might say, oh, Janice has a slightly different needs than Marcus, even though they might be in the right segment together. But you might design something for Janice that Marcus might not like, right? Or vice versa. And instead, putting them and distilling them into the same group, you can develop a product that's going to help both of them to an extreme level. So what is a persona? You basically distill all of your interviews into the same person, right? So collectively, they represent the need of your target customer. They help you ensure you understand who your customer is, the problems they have, etc. And they provide an objective and focused way to drive decisions and offerings for features, marketing, et cetera, right? So one of the things will be, what are the channels that these people use? And you put it on the persona. So you can always say, if someone says, hey, let's do a Facebook ad, someone can always point to the persona and say, actually, this representation of all of our customers do not use Facebook. They use Twitter. They use Instagram. They use whatever. It's important for you to understand. And it looks like something like this. This is kind of a grainy version, but if you go to extensio.com, you can find a version of this. This is a great story. So Lee worked for her own marketing agency. She owned her own marketing agency, and she was doing work for one of her customers. One of her customers was a conservative think tank that was creating really, really long posts. They're very proud about their very, very long, thoughtful posts for people like staffers on the Hill. And so Lee and her company did some customer discovery, started talking to these people, and they realized that these people didn't really need a long form version. They needed very, very quick talking points, like 15 minutes before somebody was going on the floor. And so they weren't interested in these really long form posts. They were interested in just kind of nuggets. And so they went back and they created this persona to present to this company saying, like, look, this is this persona that we've created. This is Brady Hancock. He's a legislative staffer. This is his education. This is his experience. This is what he does. And because of these things, he is looking for a bite-sized thing. And this is all an amalgamation of all of the other staffers that they talk to. So they could present this to their customer, their client, and say, look, you need to start designing things for this person, not for the person you think you're designing it for, right? So instead of designing it for somebody who has the time to do this, the person who has the time to do this is not their customer right now. Here's another example. And the common components of a persona. So it's got a name, photo, maybe quotes in the voice of the customer, right? So using the verbiage that they would use, backgrounds and demographics to the extent that they're useful, goals, job to be done, frustration, pain points, a narrative about them, and the key characteristics, right? Again, habits, behaviors, and beliefs. It's just a way to put a face with names or face with the interviews that you've had. So it's a little bit easier for you to understand. People have difficulty understanding dozens of people. It's typically we associate with one person, and it's much easier for you to process that. Thank you for watching this. I really appreciate it. We'll be meeting next Tuesday. Hopefully you'll have the time to collect your notes, start doing some maybe processing or looking at them ahead of time so that when we get to the meeting, we can hit the ground running and spend the majority of our meeting working on the Postit exercise, working with coaches to help you process your notes and really think about some of the trends and things that you're seeing there. So again, thank you for watching this, and I'll see you on Tuesday.